In a fast-moving, hyper-competitive culture, today's children are expected to cope with an ever earlier start to formal schoolwork and an overly academic, test-driven primary curriculum. They are pushed by market forces to act and dress like mini adults and exposed via the electronic media to material which would have been considered unsuitable for children even in the very recent past. Our society rightly takes great pains to protect children from physical harm, but seems to have lost sight of their emotional and social needs. However, it is now clear that the mental health of an unacceptable number of children is being unnecessarily compromised, and that is almost certainly a key factor in the rise of substance abuse, violence, and self harm amongst our young children. This is a complex socio-cultural problem to which there is no simple solution, but a sensible first step to encourage parents and policymakers to start talking about ways in which we can improve children's well-being. So this was a part of the preface of the author. So would you want to suggest something, say something, or should we move on?
I think Nitya has put in the chat window. What is first hand experience of the world? In my understanding, reading is second hand experience. So I actually stop my daughter from reading too much and pull her for walks.
Wow.
First hand experiences is through five senses. That is first hand experiences: visual, sense, and taste. Reading and writing becomes actually secondary.
Hmm. So Nitya is asking, what am I doing correct? So- yeah, I think I also wanted to bring this point, which I think Sabha you read in the beginning, is that
Mm-hmm.
expecting them to be mini adults
I
and
know, I know.
getting the same sense what we have, say, for junk food or even things like values like honesty and other things. So we somewhere start believing that the children should have the same value as much as I have as an adult, but I think our values has formed after our own experiences. So we need to have children to develop their own and I think that's where what Nitya is saying is reading is again a second hand experience because there's somebody else's experience which is coming for me. Yeah, so Sabha is asking any
So
any any specific you want to her to read, or she can just go ahead and read. Yeah, somebody else was saying something.
So I was just saying, so this is a very, very nice conversation which has come up even after I've read the book is like, what is the difference between a first hand experience and a second hand experience? Sometimes we as parents are so satisfied that my child is reading, matlab whole day long she's reading. But to me also it's a discovery today, as in the very first thing which we've spoken about. So should I continue?
Yeah, please. Yeah,
So
I think
yeah.
I think Nitya said she wanted to read a one specific. Nitya, you want to share which one you wanted Sabha to read?
Janitya.
There was one on the parental something, and then firmness and warmth. There was a graph. So I
Oh
wanted to
yes, the
understand the
different
role of
parenting styles which mentions over here.
parental balance thought,
Balancing
something like that.
act,
Parental
yeah. The
balance.
parental
And then
balancing act. It is here.
that one, yeah. And then warmth and firmness.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
that whole tightrope walk, if we can discuss that, please.
Okay.
Uh, Can you just tell us the name, the title of the book once again? I joined in late and I've missed that.
It's Detoxing Childhood by Sue Palmer.
Great. Thank you so much.
So Nitya, there are few points which I've marked and which reaches that page in like 2-3 pages. So should we go that way, or should we directly jump into the balancing act?
Up to
What
the
do you
group,
suggest?
actually. What
Okay.
how you all feel? I would just like that covered before we close today. So up to you all, whatever is organic, you know.
I think Sabha, your voice is breaking. If you're speaking, we are not able to. Yeah, I think we lost Sabha. She's back.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes, I think as Nitya is saying, since none of us has any other preference, if you're
Uh-huh.
okay, you can go ahead with that part, and then we'll see
ठीक
if
है,
there is any other we not to.
ठीक है. So before we get into the parenting thing, it just before that there is a page which says, "Can we detoxify childhood?" So this is amazing. This is something which caught my attention. Was the human brain is a remarkable organ, and even when something goes awry, it can usually be reprogrammed to overcome the problem. Now, 21st century parents, being a parent has always been hard work.
Sorry,
Looking at
Sabha, what can be reprogrammed? Can you just
the
tell me?
human brain.
Human brain. Okay, yeah, go.
Yeah. So being a parent has always been hard work. Looking after children is physically and emotionally draining. It goes on 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and the stakes in terms of your offspring's future happiness are high. But being a parent in a fast moving electronic global village is harder than ever. Most parents today are trying to juggle the job with similarly exhausting paid employment. They are also fighting a constant battle against marketing and peer group pressures. They are bombarded with worrying news and statistics about children, and as toxic childhood syndrome spreads, they are blamed by government and the media. So it's not surprising if parents feel battered and browbeaten, or that since many of the causes of toxic childhood syndrome seems beyond their control, they're so bewildered about how to get out of the mess, but for the sake of their children and the world those children will grow up and live in, parents have to get their act together. Detoxing parenthood is the first step to detoxing childhood. So this chapter looks at how 21st century lifestyle makes it more difficult for parents to meet children's needs in terms of diet, sleep, day-to-day family life, exercise and play. It gives some suggestions for detoxing children's life, expanded from the expert advice. They are only suggestions. All children are different. Some need more warmth or a firmer hand than others. This is why following the advice of parenting experts, especially those who lay down very hard and fast rules, can sometimes be counterproductive. Parents have to make their own decisions about the best ways to handle their own children. Now, to make good decisions, they need to know what children need for healthy development, how modern life can prevent these needs being met. The Parental Balancing Act. There's now a huge body of research showing that to raise happy, resilient children in a modern democratic society, parent needs to balance warmth with firmness. Warmth, giving children time, love, and attention, listening to them and taking their feelings and opinions into account, helping children feel good about themselves. Firmness, setting clear boundaries for behavior, translating these boundaries into rules and routines for the family, insisting that children follow the rules. Now they have a graph over here. I don't know if you want to see, which is like median and axle. The upper part is warm and the lower one is not warm. That is the x-axis, and firm and not firm. So now they said it's like if you can achieve this balance, you are an authoritative parent, and your children are likely to feel good about themselves, to get along with other people, and to behave well at school. As they go older, they develop self-discipline, which means they enter the teens also to be able to make their own decisions and resist temptation. So it pays to be authoritative, but it's not easy to achieve the balance as you have to make constant adjustments depending upon the circumstances. What if you get the balance wrong? Parents who are firm but not warm are authoritarian. Their children may be well behaved at home but lacking in self esteem. Since they never learn to think for themselves, they're likely to go off the rails when the parent isn't there, particularly in the teenage years. Parents who are warm but not firm are indulgent. Their children usually have high self esteem, sometimes too high. They may have problems making and keeping friends or following rules since they see themselves as more important than other people. They are also likely to lack self discipline and thus as prey to temptation and peer pressure during their teenage years. There's the last one which says parents who are neither warm nor firm are neglectful. Their children are seriously at risk. They tend to have low self esteem, poor self discipline, and little respect for the feelings of others. They are highly likely to be disturbed teenagers and unhappy adults. So, should I continue or do you want to say something or discuss anything about it?
Sabha, can you just repeat the last?
So boundaries, like Aditi was saying, in the context of unschooling, freedom of the child, following the child, trusting the child, you know. So can you look at maybe an example of setting firm boundaries? We can even take that reading wala example I shared or something else. But firmness in unschooling, that's what I'm trying to.
Yeah, even I'm curious to know from others and from Aditi, how do we look at firmness and what do we call
And one more thing, I think Preeti wanted me to read some other part. Preeti, I didn't get you. Matlab, we missed you if you were saying something.
No, I was just trying to ask to I was saying to repeat the last three types. Like one is firm and not.
One is authoritarian,
Yeah.
the other is indulgent, and the third one is neglectful.
Okay. 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 Yeah. Thank you. So they have told a combination of two, like firmness and warmth. So
Yeah.
one is like if you're warm and not firm, or if you're firm and not warm, and if you're not both.
Yes. Anjali, 21st century, I think as the book moves further, they have quite a few things to suggest. How can parents take control? Which would again be matlab, suddenly when you feel. So I don't know. but it's very challenging. I feel it should spark a debate.
Aditi, I can't hear you.
Because I was mute.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, what I was saying is that I have the feeling that book will have something more for us to ponder, and then we open the debate, or we open the debate now and then go back to book and first hand experience or second hand experience.
Is there some more about the 21st century electronics, what they have to read?
21st century electronics, I'll just read out the topics on detoxing is eating habits, sleeping habit, family life, playtime. And for the introductory chapter, it has what about the children, only connect, use it or lose it, building better brains, success, motivation and rewards, oh, I want to be like you, repetition, repetition, repetition. That's it. For the introductory, these are small topics. So should you want me to read that?
The three lines are in the warmth and no firmness, firmness but no warmth, and no warmth and no firmness. So let's three categories.
Yeah. So Sabha, let's read little more.
ठीक है.
That will be
So what about the children? To achieve an authoritative parenting style, it helps to know something about the way children's brain develop and how they learn. As the eminent neuroscientist Susan Greenfield has pointed out, the human brain has not changed since Cro-Magnon times. Every baby is born, a little Stone Age baby, and learns in the same way. Over childhood, we help build the brain structures that will help our offspring survive in a complex 21st century culture. Only connect. When a baby is born, it has almost its full consignment of brain cells, about 1 trillion. But what matters are the connections between the cells, and the vast majority of these are formed after birth, in response to the baby's experiences. The scientific name for brain cells is neurons, and the connection forged between the cells are known as neural pathways, joining up in neural networks. These underpin all human behavior. For instance, almost all human children develop the neural networks required to smile, laugh, feed themselves, walk, and talk. Children build up their basic neural networks gradually through constant repetition of particular experiences until a pattern is firmly established and the activity becomes as natural to them as breathing. By this time, the network is so deeply embedded, it has become part of their brain structure. In the words of one neuroscientist, cells that fire together, wire together. Use it or lose it. But the brain has to be selective. If neurons don't fire and wire, they eventually disappear. For instance, a baby is born with all the neurons it needs to speak any language on earth. But the sounds that baby will learn are those of the language it hears every day, not surprisingly known as its mother tongue. The neurons for picking up other language sounds die away, so that after the age of about 6, the brain can no longer discriminate with them. This is why when they learn English as adults, Chinese people find it so difficult to pronounce the sound R. It doesn't exist in their language. So the neurons required to hear and pronounce it had disappeared. Building better brains. The experience of childhood create the adult brain. Between birth and 3, children slowly lay the foundations, learning to move, communicate, balance, and control their bodies and actions. This is an enormous amount of learning, more than they learn at any other time in their lives. Indeed, it underpins everything they will become in the future. If they can establish strong, healthy neural networks, learning through pleasurable interaction with loving adults, all their later learning will be built in solid foundations. Once the foundations are laid, we tend to forget about them. Foundations are by their very nature buried underground. So most people are utterly unaware of their importance. Most of us don't remember much about the next stage of learning either. Between 3 and 6, neural networks continue to be formed at an amazing rate during these years too. Learning for 3 to 6-year-old is very much embedded in first-hand experience, but as their language develops, they are more able to learn through discussing what they see and do, and they are more able to learn in a group. Getting along with other children at preschool, their experience at this stage underpin the schooling and can make the difference between long-term success and failure in education. After the age of about 6, children are ready for more formal learning at school. Neural networks continue to develop, but it's more difficult to start them from scratch. The stronger the foundations, the more easily the child will learn. So now we go to the next topic, which is success, motivation, and rewards. So let me know once you want me to stop, okay? I'll just continue reading otherwise.
I think I also wanted to bring it that there are also studies which says that we can learn even at a later stage. What is that? So then there is a different sets of neurons which works when we want to learn. So suppose if we like for example, I think the beginning he was saying that if we have missed out how to be firm, or if we have missed out understanding that whole concept of the balance between the firmness and the warmth, I think we can still develop that. Similarly, if the child has missed out in an ideal condition, yeah, everything needs to be perfectly organized for the child, but sometime I vary with these statements that if it hasn't happened till the age of 6, it's either difficult or it cannot happen. And so I just wanted to bring that pointer that still things are possible, but it's just that we just take this study that how a practice, or how neurons, or how an exposure, or how an experience can play a different role in different I will say the development of the child. So I think I just wanted to bring that point. If or if anybody has any other thought on this, I think Anjali has also put up the word foundation. So sometimes these words can mislead,
Hmm.
that oh my, the foundation for my child is now 21-year-old, so I've lost everything in my life. I'm 50-year-old, so I've also lost everything in my life. So I think these words we need to take them as a pinch of salt, or that okay, yeah, fine, it's there. So just take it as an understanding rather than that's my suggestion. I'm not against if you are still going ahead and uh, uh, going through that thing. So sometimes these things bring a lot of fear that okay, if it is not done, then I've lost the bus and I can't take now another train or something like that.
Very true, actually. Because I recently read an article that adult learners learn faster than child learners.
Yeah,
So
so
I think
we
there's a
also
growing body of research that's changing even as we speak.
yeah. So we also need to understand these research are still
And there's always
I
new
will say
knowledge coming out about neuroscience.
yeah. Also, we need to understand all these research which are coming out. They're coming out still with a limited exposure, means with a limited understanding. Yeah, so we still can't put it that now if the child has lost the bus till so that's where the words like foundation and all worries me, when it goes into the parents mind that okay, now now I can't do anything. But then I think there is a lot more at every stage. Even if at our stage it's possible for us to change our neurons. Because there is a lot of other things works on what brings changes in ourselves, or the way we look at things. So I just wanted to bring that to.
So getting back to that line which we were reading, so in the book itself it says, the human brain is a remarkable organ, and even when something goes awry, it can usually be reprogrammed to overcome the problem.
Yeah, so I think both the things he's bringing, that we have the hope that it can be reprogrammed also. Yeah, possible. Yeah, so good Sabha, you brought that point, that okay, there are both the points existing. One is that where it is bringing the attention that okay, it needs to be done. At the same time, it also bringing attention that we can reprogram the brain. Yeah, so anything else what I think Nitya was asking about, anything more on how to bring balance on firmness, and especially with this unschooling context, is there anything more, Sabha, in the book?
No, nothing as such. Now it gets divided into topics, that is eating, playtime, and family time. So it's working like that. Not too much of a discussion on that. But then what happens, at topic base, they are defining it, that how can you be warm and be firm at the same time. So there are examples about eating, be firm and be warm.
So can you read something from that?
So to begin with, it's the first is about eating habits. So after giving us all the tips and stuff like that, how can parents take control and sugar and information about that, growing up in the junk food jungle, eating together, why shared meals are important, social eating, how to wean children off unhealthy food, cutting back on snack attack, and then the last, I think it's summing up together. So I'll read this only. Detoxing meal times. Be warm. Make family meals pleasurable social occasions. Involve your children in planning, shopping for, and preparing meals whenever possible. Serve food in serving dishes rather than putting it on your child's plate, so he or she can choose the portion size. Don't insist on your child eating anything. Provide plenty of bread, vegetables, pasta, rice, so she doesn't go hungry. When you introduce a new food, just offer a little taste, and if your child doesn't like it, don't push it. If he or she does, give lots of praise. When you next serve that dish, offer another little taste, explaining that one's taste can change as one grows up. Expect your child to eat and behave well at meal times, and give plenty of praises as she masters manners, stressing how grown up this is. Involve your child in mealtime conversation. Be firm. Eat meals at regular time each day, at a table in a TV-free zone. Don't allow anyone to snack for at least 2 hours before the meal, so the family comes to the table hungry. Snacking before meals is rude to the cook. No snacking after meals either. If your child doesn't want to eat, she have to live with hunger. You choose which dishes to serve because you know what's nutritious and good for your child. Don't make special dishes. Everyone eats the same food. No sugary drinks, just water. Adults may have beer or wine if they wish, because they are adults. Introduce table manners gradually, focusing on one aspect at a time. Don't give rewards for eating particular foods or for good behavior. Once your child is trained up, insist on good table manners. Example, not starting till everyone, including the cook, is sitting down. Pleases and thank yous passing to others before serving oneself. So just to finish this, meal times are a great opportunity for family talk. And if conversation flags, you can always play word or memory games. One family told me that they sometimes try to talk for 5 minutes without anyone saying the word no. Surprisingly fun, they said, and educational for adults and children alike. But while it's important to involve children in conversation, they must also know not to interrupt. The more the merrier, especially true around the dining table. Sharing meals with other family means more adults and children for everyone to chat to, so no one feels left out. So this is about the eating habits. So you want me to go to the sleeping habits, or are we pausing for any discussion? Matlab, I can see a lot of discussions happening.
Yeah, Nitya, it's okay to video to be off. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. You want to talk? I think we are able to hear you without the video. Or you want to chat? We can read out for you. I think let's Sabha read more. So I think that gives us a lot of different ideas and
Hmm.
clarity on what does it means to be firm and what does it mean to be warm. What are the
So
different?
let's see the detoxing bedtime, be warm and be firm over there. Good sleep habits don't happen by accident. Parents have to show their children how to sleep. Now be warm. Make sure your child's bedroom is comfortable, welcoming, and cool so the bed is cozy and inviting. Devise a bedtime ritual that you and your child enjoy. For instance, a drink of warm milk, bath time, teeth cleaning, etc., lullaby, soft music, a short chat about the day, a bedtime story, a security object, your special way of saying good night, and your good night kiss. Listen and respond to your child's bedtime fears. For instance, if your child is scared of monsters, give the room a spray with monster repellent, a water-filled plant spray. If your child is scared of the dark, listen to him and talk about these fears and try to allay them. If he or she really can't manage without a nightlight, get the dimmest you can and put it well away from the bed. Be firm. No television or other electronic equipments in the bedroom. No additive rich food at tea time, especially no fizzy drinks high in caffeine. Bedtime is bedtime. No staying up late except on very special occasion. Adjust bedtimes as your child gets older on the basis of scientific recommendations. Begin the wind down half an hour or so before bedtime by removing your child from TV or other technological distractions. Decide how long you'll stay with your child as part of the bedtime ritual and stick to it, perhaps setting a timer. Once you've left, expect your child to stay in bed and go to sleep. If your child uses a comforter, example, a dummy bottle nightlight, wean him off as soon as possible. The longer it's used, the more difficult it will be to remove. If your child gets out of bed, don't reward him with attention. Silently return him to bed and leave immediately. Ensure everyone who puts your child to bed sticks to the routine. So now, okay, we were talking about setting the boundaries. So in family time, there is a specific topic about setting the boundaries. So should I read that?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Before you can teach behavioral boundaries, you have to decide what they are. In most homes, there are agreed rules covering safety, health and hygiene, social behavior such as table manners, morality. Thou shalt take turns, thou shalt not hit thy sister. Simple practices to ease the running of the household, such as putting away toys or not eating before meals. then remember that children learn through imitation and repetition. If you want them to put their knife and fork together at the end of the meal, put yours together. If you want them to be polite to the babysitter, model politeness to babysitter over and over again. To begin with, the adults in charge should decide household rules and routines. As children grow older, they too can help. The idea is gradually to hand over responsibility for behavior to your child, so they are self-regulating by the time they reach the teenage years. The tips on the opposite page are starting point. So with the tips, they refer to the detoxing behavior, that is be warm and be firm. So be warm, explain, or with older children, negotiate family rules for behavior and talk about them. Why they are necessary, how they'll affect behavior. Always listen to your child's point of view. Take into account and be prepared to change rules to accommodate good points they make. If your child breaks the rules, make your initial reaction one of surprise and sorrow rather than anger indeed. Try never to get angry at all. Explain what's upsetting you and how you'd prefer your child to behave. If your child is merely testing the boundaries, try to ignore or distract him rather than letting the situation escalate. Accept that all children fall from grace sometimes. Though you must make displeasure felt, forgive quickly. Praise your child for good behavior, making it clear what the good behavior is. Well done, you've tidied up everything away perfectly. The bedroom looks great and you'll be able to find your stuff easily when you need it. Be firm. Decide with other adults in charge and older children on rules of behavior in the home. Perhaps post them with the kitchen for reference. Remember that adults must abide by them too. But don't get them drawn into pointless arguments. Make it clear that in the final analysis, what you say goes. But if the behavior is clearly unacceptable, nip it firmly in the bud. Don't let it escalate. But if your child doesn't comply, immediately make it clear that you're very displeased, state exactly what you want to happen and insist that it does. Never ignore boundary. Testing once your child is aware you've noticed, they just encourages them to see how far they can push you. If you threaten or promise something, always follow through. Broken promises means your child won't take you seriously in the future. So be very careful about your threaten. Have some sanctions worked out. Deprivation of pocket money or treats, time out in a quiet part of the house, extra household chores. Family time, not quality time. One of the most pernicious myths of recent decades is the myth of quality time. Those odd snatched hours with one's children when everyone's supposed to be on best behavior, enjoying quality interaction. But this isn't how close family relationships work. Children aren't like business acquaintances or casual dates who can be slotted into a busy diary. All those special outings and occasions such as family viewing night are great fun. It's more important just to spend day by day time together. Hanging out in the same place, following family routines and rituals, getting on with household chores or enjoying a hobby.
So I think let's open for the discussion now.
Great.
I think we got a decent amount of examples to understand what does he mean by firmness as well as the warmth. So anyone has any thoughts? So
Can you hear me when I ask a question?
yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, so I totally read, I hear bits and pieces. There was a part she read out that your child is pushing boundaries, ignore at first or something like that.
Pardon?
About how to handle when the child is not respect boundaries, right?
Sabha?
Yeah, Nitya, just pushing boundaries, right? What in that? Matlab, I'm not getting.
My question was, sorry, again, it's breaking. My question was basically, would I be judging the child's behavior rather than saying? I'm taking
Not able
call
to follow
on whether the
Nitya.
child is pushing boundary or not.
Nitya, we are not able to follow. I don't know if others could follow.
No, Nitya is asking when he says when he talks about pushing the boundaries, that means we are judging, we are not observing. And she has mentioned it in the chat.
Okay.
We are not just observing, we are judging. That's what she said.
I think what I understood, what he's saying is that when like I think somebody was sharing the last time that the children are either consistently either asking for it, that can I, either pushing you or pushing the boundaries, and then trying their luck that is it possible to break the boundaries, or continuously keep doing um, uh, in spite of having a clear whatever setting the rule. And what I understood what he's saying is, then I think that's where you bring a lot of other things: understanding, adjustment, negotiation, listening to the children, different. He's talking about the age, but I'm also adding to it as per the child's understanding and your 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 whatever discussion with the child. Is that what Sabha he was talking about?
So I guess in between which I felt was there were few things which I would agree to and some things which I would not agree to, definitely. But what I could decipher was setting boundaries which can be co-created,
Hmm. Hmm.
which was a point which I would want to pick up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think he also talks about the varieties. He also, like in the food, what he's talking about is, you bring variety, and somewhere it is also talking about without any expectations. Just because I have brought the variety, the child should not, it's not that the child should eat it. Rather, give a taste of the new dish every day, or whatever frequency is just the metaphorical, that give a taste every day, new taste, and then allow the child to use his experiences to decide that okay, whether the child wants to go ahead with that or not. So I think Sabha has worded co-creation. And the co-creation requires a lot of listening, understanding, sharing. And that also brings me a point where, sometimes when we talk about unschooling, when we talk about facilitation way of working with children, somewhere this image is created that everything has to be goody goody. I have to be just bend down to the child, or I have to just be the child's follower, kind of. Not in that sense follower, but I think if you read Carl Rogers, he talks about there are millions of images of the facilitators. Sometime I'm pushing, sometime I'm pulling, sometime I'm cajoling, sometime I'm firm with the child, sometime I'm soft with the child. So I'm not same in the different situations. Yeah. So if we can remove that image of ourselves, that okay, I'm a mother, I'm supposed to be soft, I'm a facilitator, I'm supposed to be popular, or parents are not supposed to be like that, kind of a thing. So he also talks about expressing your feelings, your thoughts, your emotions. He's also talking about, maybe he's saying that don't get angry, but then I'm taking it that okay, so before the reach stage of anger come, can I understand what emotions, and can I express to them. Yeah, so Nitya is also talking about situational leadership. Change and respond according to situation.
So, Aditi, just to give an insight into the book, we
Yeah.
might not be able to do it, but it also talks about be warm with your child and yourself.
Yeah, it's
Be
important.
firm with your child and yourself.
Yeah, it brings it. Yeah, it's quite important. We keep saying be gentle to yourself before you want to be gentle with your child. Be gentle to yourself, accept whatever, let's see that we all are making mistakes, but we are also growing kind of a thing. So yeah, I think Sabha, you've got a very good point. And also I think this, the second point what he's saying is to be firm to ourselves. The many of the times when the so-called inconsistency comes, today I was consistent for the sleeping time, tomorrow I myself is tired, तो अच्छा ठीक
Absolutely.
है सब जने kind of 12 बजे तक cold drink पी के करो, no problem kind of a thing. So when, so maybe I can understand first myself that what is this bringing inconsistency. So we also need to understand this inconsistency is now getting passed on to the child, and the child is now getting confused, and then the child is then, maybe the child is drawing, just go by your mood, just check today's luck is where, kind of a thing, but not the clear. Yeah.
So when I was expecting, I was in the field of education for quite some time. So I used to look up to this teacher who was like really old, and she just gave me one advice. She says, "Sabha, do only those things with your children which you're ready to do for the rest of your life." So I just remembered this.
Yeah. Anyone? Any other thought? What are you thinking?
Kind of blank. There's so many situational. What exactly Nitya said that situational leadership, or maybe not leadership, but situation by situation, handling every situation. I think, and letting also them also handle every situation. Because yeah, what you said, Aditi, that every single day going by that particular time frame and everything is not possible. Now once in a while you really feel that okay, today let's chill out, or let's do this thing together, and maybe we get stay up till late, till say 12 o'clock or something. Otherwise the time is 10 o'clock, so every single day it is not possible, I think.
I think that's what he's also talking about, special occasions, or you have certain situations which demand. So I think he's talking about be firm with that, but also be flexible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So now
Agree.
so we need to say where is the balance between this firmness and this flexibility, and is this flexibility only defined by me as a parent? Or
Yeah.
is there a scope for the child also to be flexible? So I think it's I call it a very dynamic situation, not even a different situation, because it keeps changing for us, our things also, and that's where it demands our own reflection on it, that what made me to not follow, say, today's sleep time or eat time or cooking time or time with my child. I planned that okay, I'll be there, or there's a family time where we'll all be there together. In fact, when we were in the lockdown, when it was there, so before the lockdown, as a group of Arohi children, we would have 7 to 8. It was a very fixed kind of a thought club would happen. So as a group, we decided 8 of us were there that we'll continue that process, but with the dinner, and then after dinner we will play game. So there would be days when I would feel tired or bored of the games and all that, but there were some children who would say, no, it has to happen. Okay. And then I had to give up my own status to be there with the group and then follow that. Okay, yeah. So so it was good that how sometimes, some days I was able to lead that no, it has to happen in certain thing, and in certain things they were able to. Like for example, 5 o'clock we had the sports time, and by the 4:30, 4:45, either I'm into my work or I'm getting tired, and it was pure laziness, and I would make any excuse to not to go for the sports. Okay, so that's one of the reflection. This two or three of them brought that, this is not done. People are not coming in time for sports, and believe me, after that discussion I said, okay, fine, now I need to pull myself and then come out of that thing. And so they helped me to be disciplined with that kind of to reach in time. And they were even like, even if 5 minutes late, if you go na, they will show the watch, because that team making फोर का टीम हार्डली 8 जन है, 4 की टीम में बास्केटबॉल खेलने में एक जना लेट हो गया, तो it was affecting them, but it was very important for them, and then they brought that point, and it was very nice that they could bring that discipline for me. Yeah, so I think that's what he's talking about, and that's what Sabha, I think, rephrased it, the co-creation, where we are ready to receive from each other. Yeah, like Anjali saying, TV free zone, sometime we follow, sometime I forget to follow.
So here what Aditi is saying, that wherever there is a group thing involved, and anything wherever there is a time discipline for a group activity or group thing, or maybe a family thing, then I think we should really adhere to the timing and the discipline and everything. But another thing is also, I'm like thinking upon, which I've read, you have written somewhere very distinctly, this timetable thing, is it setting us free, or it is putting us further more into some
That
kind of
was, yeah, that was our second part of the discussion, but I don't think today we have time. Yeah, yeah, I know how we leave this and then get into cage, and how we leave the cage and get into the freedom. It's quite interesting part
yeah.
which you are bringing. Yeah.
Mm.
So
So
that's
that's
what we
really
thought
stuck.
we'll do the next part of the discussion, but I think today's book was interesting. We moved on with it.
So
So
Aditi, I
maybe
think we are
next.
already there. Preeti, we are already there, but now I cannot, because it's with the Arohi thing which we've learned, this slow down thing. I can't resist reading this page. So please allow me that
Please
two
go ahead.
minutes. Huh?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Because I remember the very first poem sent to us was "Slow down, Arohi ahead." Matlab, I just it was it. So I want to read this. Okay, electric speed versus slow time. It's not just work and general busyness that makes it difficult to provide family time. It's a modern mindset. Today's parents grew up in an era of labor-saving devices. We are used to pressing a switch or turning a dial and getting whatever we want straight away. No messing at work, we used to multitasking, clicking between programs, websites, fielding phone calls, emails, juggling a dozen mental tasks at once. Not surprisingly, people raised in such a quick fix world find it difficult to slow down to the much more primitive pace needed for looking after a baby or small child. I remember comparing looking after a small baby to driving in the first gear all day. For adults used to living at electric speed, it takes an effort of will to slow down. But if parents find a way of switching their brains to slow time, when with their children, they can start enjoying family time rather than feeling constantly rushed, irritated, and exhausted. A mother in Kent told me, when I go and pick up the children now, I pause before I get out of the car and say to myself, now slow down. Think, little people, and think slow, as you are now going into slow time. And it really helps me to adjust my mindset from my busy day to that of the children. So you're on mute, Aditi.
I think my clap was there. Sabha has, and I think now the children who are now logging in for History Club are telling us to slow down and
Right.
And leave from here.
Hmm.
yeah,
Last
Sabha, it
test
was
was good.
great. Yeah. So
Great.
yeah, if for next week, Roshni, would you like to bring the reading by the time History Club children are settling down?